This weekend I had my niece over visiting with me, and we watched a movie called A Quiet Place. And I really wanted to see that movie for I think ever since it was in theaters, I just kept kind of putting it off, or I would forget about it. And we watched a few episodes of of Legacies, and then we were looking for a movie to watch, and I was she's like, "Oh, that's really good." So I watched it, and it was really good. And it stars John Krasinski, who Jeff and I mentioned on our pop culture show a few weeks ago, is in the running and is in serious talks with Marvel to play Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, in the next Fantastic Four movie, the first ever actual Marvel Fantastic Four movie. But professional wrestling already has its Mr. Fantastic, in my opinion, because nobody moves and stretches his body and does incredible things in the ring like Zack Sabre Jr. does. Um, I could not believe the way he was stretching Kota Ibushi in that match,
Wow.
even though he lost, or the way that when Kota went for a double stomp, like a foot away from Zack Sabre Jr., somehow he just managed to completely avoid it and get him in a submission hold right away. It was
The
just sensational.
the fact that you connected those two blows my mind. I was listening to you talk about Marvel and Fantastic Four and Reed Richards, and I'm like, okay, where's he going with this?
He even looks like Reed Richards, dude.
In, well, I guess
He
it
looks like
depends on which Reed Richards we're looking at, but
the young version of him. So,
you're right. And I mean, even Kevin Kelly was like, he just literally disappeared and reappeared to kick him in the face.
right.
And it was when I watched that, I was honestly blown away. Now I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen much of night two. I've only seen, I'm sorry, the second round. I've only seen that one match that we're definitely going to talk about because if we don't talk about it, it's going to be a problem. Um, but I picked and chose from the B bracket only because there were a lot of matchups that just didn't, I just couldn't get myself excited about, even though it's New Japan. I just couldn't get myself excited about it. Um, but I did watch quite a bit of the B block. I definitely watched the whole A block, which we talked about last week. But man,
Well, I'm
I
assuming that you watched Coda versus. Well, I'm assuming that. I mean, I know which Coda versus Zack Sabre Jr.,
oh yeah, absolutely.
which is great and should have been the main event of that night.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's what I was gonna say. The only reason I can think that Tanahashi was is because he's Tanahashi.
I know.
The one thing that really kind of there were a few Kevin Kelly moments over the last couple of shows that we watched where I was like, what? Really? Are you watching the same program that we watch? Like he was talking about first of all his just utter anger over the way Tai Chi won that match when Tai Chi literally outworked Tanahashi. Yes, he got the jump start. Yes, and I can't think of the guy's name, Daku or that new guy that's with
Doki. Doki.
Doki, the new guy that's with um, Suzuki-gun. But he was talking, and that was kind of crappy and everything. But Tanahashi fought his way back into it. The match went on another 15, 20 minutes, and to be honest, Taichi out wrestled him in their story. I mean, we're never going to say that Tai Chi out wrestles Tanahashi, but in the story they told, he did. So for Kevin Kelly to lose his mind over the fact that Tanahashi didn't deserve it and he's despicable and all this stuff, or I'm sorry, Tai Chi is despicable and all this stuff, kind of bugged me a little bit.
But he is. Tai Chi is despicable.
Well, yeah, he is because he's a heel and part of Suzuki-gun. I mean, that, just it was we've talked before about how another company can likes to bury people that they don't feel is fit, and they do it a lot,
Rhaegar, really, you were just outside. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
with the announce team. The announce team can bury somebody quicker than their performance in the ring can. And Taichi,
Come on.
he's been growing on me the last couple of years. I know you still are not a huge fan of his and everything, but ultimately he has improved and he's finally getting to a point where they're giving him a little bit more. He's getting a little bit bigger push. And for the way that Kevin Kelly buried him like that was really disappointing.
You know, I must have heard it differently than you did because I thought Kevin Kelly was
Are you getting chocolate
saying,
milk?
oh, he finally beat Tai Chi. Tai Chi was able to actually beat Tanahashi, but then But then once there was those after those post match antics, and he
Right.
was really getting down on him, like, you know, this is like the real Tai Chi and that kind of stuff. Because he actually pinned
Okay.
Tanahashi clean, did he not?
Oh yeah, yeah, he pinned him
Yeah,
clean, and it
yeah, and
ended
that's and
up
that's that,
after.
and that's what he was saying. He was saying this is what Tanahashi wanted Tai Chi to prove, that he could beat him, you know, one on one and outwork him.
Right,
And then
but
after the match, when they jumped him, that's when Kevin Keller really got on Tai Chi.
I guess I'm thinking back to the next day when he was talking about how there were three amazing matches and one that was, well, deplorable. And then he got on Tai Chi about how that's no way to win the match and all this stuff. Well, to be honest, Tai Chi won the match fair and square. It was his after antics that were a little bit shady.
Hmm.
And, well, that's Suzuki-gun. That's what we've come to expect from Suzuki-gun. It's not like he was doing anything different than anybody else in Suzuki-gun does all the time. It just, to me, it came across more as a burial because anybody that didn't watch night one, anybody or that, his match against Tanahashi, and there's probably some people that didn't, but anybody that didn't watch it is now looking at it going, oh, he must have been, a shithead, and that's why he won, and, he can't win legitimately and all that.
Yeah, that's fair. Um,
So
I just
the other
I
thing,
go ahead.
and I want to say this quickly before I forget, the other thing that he said that really kind of, um, I don't want to say made me angry, but we're pretty close to angry on it when he said that uh, Jado and Toro Yano put on a technical masterpiece.
I think he was being sarcastic.
I don't know, but it was one of those going, come on, Kevin, you cannot think that at all. That was one of the most that is right up there as one of my top three worst most hated matches of all time.
Um, well, let's talk about the match he said that during then, because he also said at the end of that match, he said, "Of all the ways I've seen a match end, that was one of them." Um,
Right.
and and I thought it was like a really creative way for a match to end. It was like I mean I texted I IM'd you this morning immediately when I got to work, and I said, um, what did oh yeah, I said I think I've actually seen everything in professional wrestling now.
And when you said that, I immediately went on my lunch break and decided I needed to watch it because it just, for you to have that kind of reaction, I'm like, all right, I need to see this. So I took a really, really early lunch break so I could watch it, and it did not disappoint. That that was one of the more amazing things I've ever seen. And I think IM'd you about it too, saying that one thing I really like about Takahashi is he is straight up one of the best, not just junior heavyweights, but one of the best storytellers and technical wrestlers in the world. I've seen him put on just absolutely amazing matches, and some of the stuff he's done has blown me away. But he has also never been afraid of poking fun at himself. I remember it was a couple of years ago when he got in that fatal four-way and he came out wearing a crash helmet because he was afraid he was going to get beat up again. And then now this, where he comes out with the hard hat and he looks all scared, peeking through the curtain and everything. He might be one of the more complete wrestlers in the business.
Yeah, it's weird if you say Toriano versus Hiromu Takahashi, you're not going to think of a story match, and this match definitely had a story
Oh,
to
it
it.
did. It
You
there
know,
wasn't a whole lot of
I mean,
wrestling, but
there wasn't a whole lot of wrestling, but they had a storyline going in, and they played all the way through to the end of the match. Yano just couldn't help himself and ended up costing himself the match because of it. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I really don't want to spoil how the match ends because it really is spectacular. It's something you have to see if you're a New Japan fan. So I mean,
it's the
it's
greatest ending.
it's the greatest example I've ever seen of Yano getting got by his own methods.
It was the most creative ending I have ever seen in my life. I remember when I was watching it going, what the hell did I just watch? I need to see that again. And I went back and I rewatched the match because I mean, it was only, I think, like 14, 15 minutes long. It wasn't a long match at all. But just everything about it from the very start with Takahashi peeking through the curtain with his helmet on to Toro coming out and doing and with the clippers and then how many three or four different clipper spots and then there were scissors involved and the tape and it was just it was a thing of beauty.
Yeah,
An
and I also
absolute thing of
and the other
beauty.
thing I loved about it was it also kind of like continues the storyline of how the refs are so exasperated with Yano because
Hmm.
the way the match ended, the ref had to be in on that.
Right. Well, yeah, he was just like, you know what, the hell with it, I'm counting. Because I mean, he didn't count up until then, but the second that door closed, he was counting.
I know they were they were fighting outside the ring for the last 5 minutes, and
Right. It was really
but those
clever. It was a great
but what's
use.
those? Yeah, go ahead.
It was a great use of the young lions, where a lot of times they just kind of get in the way or they do stupid things, but it was a great use of the young lions. It was a great callback to his defeat or his win a couple years ago. I think wasn't it Omega he beat like that, or who was it he beat like that where he tied somebody up?
No, it was Ibushi last year.
It
Yeah, it
was
was
Ibushi.
Ibushi
Okay,
last year.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, it was a great callback to last year. It was, there was a lot of really great moments in it. As much as I've been on Yano for the last couple of years and hated him and hated everything about him, there was something so refreshing and so great about seeing his character work as a heel. And then to tell the story that they did with, the redemption for Takahashi and just the comedy act and all that stuff, and to run a Toru Yano match and he finally gets beat in his own type of match. It was much better than you would think when you're looking at it on paper.
yeah, absolutely. You kind of look at it, you roll your eyes, and I wasn't expecting much from it, but you're right. When he came out with the helmet on, I was like, okay, this is gonna be something special.
And like I said, Takahashi is one of the few people that I have seen that actually can make fun of himself, be in a comedy match 1 minute, and then run out there in the next match and put on a 6-star classic.
Yeah,
I
and the other thing is that if Yano had pulled up one more pair of scissors or clippers, I swear to God, we would have to start calling him Toro Scissorheads,
right.
Toro Scissorhands. I mean,
It was I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole lot, and kudos to Kevin Kelly for giving us the backstory on it too, so that
yeah,
it actually made more sense. Because if I didn't know about the backstory about how Yano treated Takahashi when he was a young lion and all that stuff, I would have been like, what the hell is happening here? So kudos to Kevin on that for giving that backstory.
yeah. If we watched this Japanese commentary, we probably would have been completely lost. So
Yeah, it wouldn't have made any sense at all.
yeah. And then the other great match I thought in the second, I didn't think the second night of the second round was anything. There was anything good, honestly, that I
Okay,
would.
I haven't gotten
So
that far yet, so
I'm sorry, the second night of the first round, I should say. Like the main event was Evil versus Kojima.
I
I
didn't
mean, it
even
wasn't.
watch it. I
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, to me, but I loved Show versus Shingo.
I
I thought that was outstanding. I thought it was great for Show to finally get that victory. I was surprised by it. I was surprised as hell because
I
Shingo
was
has been
really
pushed so
shocked by it.
hard.
I was
You know,
really shocked by it. And I remember saying to you as soon as I finished watching it, going, he is a superstar in the making.
come on, Cleese.
Like he has got something. Yo is good, and the Yo versus Bushi match was really good too. But Sho is, as a singles competitor, I think Sho might be head and shoulders above Yo.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. I mean, they're
He
definitely pushing him that way.
he's got something about him, and it's not just his power, it's everything. Although I'm still trying to get used to him with that dark hair and not wearing the golden tights. That's going to take me a little bit. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I'm just trying to get my dog to listen.
Oh, well, good luck to you.
well,
uh,
well, they're not cats, so
it's a good point. My cat is judging me right now, so
No, I think I think we talked about this last week, but I mean, Show or no, maybe it was just over text, but yeah, there's no way Show is a junior heavyweight anymore.
no, not at
No
all.
way.
He's
He's
huge. But
huge,
we've said that about Shingo
and
too.
I think I don't think he can wear those gold tights anymore because he grew out of them. He'd ripped them apart. He had to get new outfit to wear.
Fair enough. But he looks a lot more like Shingo, and we've been questioning Shingo being a junior over the last couple of years, and he looks a lot like Shingo now. He's got the same build, he's got the same, almost presence that is undeniable. And the fact that lost in the first round just blew my mind. I
Me
did
too.
not see that coming. Even though it was shown, I knew there was going to eventually be a payoff to that storyline. I just did not see that coming.
Yeah, and me neither. But what this does set up is it sets up Show getting a never open weight championship match against Shingo. So maybe that's going to happen at Dominion next week or in a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I wouldn't mind that at all.
No, it's good to match these two put on it with each other. I wouldn't mind it whatsoever.
But that was definitely the match of the B block, I think. If I had to pick one match from the B block, that would be it.
Yeah, I that's definitely the best match so far in the B block. I mean, we talked about last week of how great the Nagata versus Suzuki match was, and trying to think what the other great one was.
All
We
of
were
them.
well, yeah, yeah. Well, Okada
The
versus even Okada versus Gedo was
Yeah,
fun.
and the
You know, so
the Takahashi match was great. There was a lot of good matches, and the only match on the A block that I really despised was Yano versus Jado.
yeah,
Other than that, I mean, Gato and Okada was kind of slow and plodding and really didn't fit well with what you expected, but it had the outcome it deserved, and Gato played his part. So Okada finally got his comeuppance against Gato. You know, he finally got, Gato played his part throughout it, made him out to be that slimy heel. It just it worked. Whatever it was, it worked.
yeah. And as far as the second round, I mean, so far I thought Okada versus Nagata was good, but I didn't think it was as good as Nagata versus Suzuki.
How could it be? Okada's
Yeah.
not the same kind of wrestler, and I think at this point in Nagata's career, he needs a guy that's gonna complement him, not differ too much from him.
Yeah, and Ishii versus Makabe, we've seen better efforts from the two of them against each other, of course. Including at one of your favorite events ever, Wrestle Kingdom 9.
Right.
Um, and, and I mean, my one of my favorites either, but I mean, you mention it very often on the show. Um, and then Kanamura versus who the hell did Kanamura face off against?
Taiji Ishimori.
Yeah, Ishimori. I mean, that to me Kanamura got way more offense in that than he should have against
Okay,
Ishimori.
that was one of the two matches outside of the Yano Takahashi match that I was still looking at, thinking, okay, I need to watch this.
Yeah, there was just some matches where I thought, well, if this wasn't the New Japan Cup match, they would never have got that much offense in. Like Yoshihashi versus Tenzan, or um, like really the Tokyo Pimp getting a lot of offense on Goto and almost beating him. Am I supposed to believe that? So
Yeah,
you
some
know,
of the matchups you look at them, you're like, what? And that's,
yeah.
that's one of them.
And but even that being the case, it would you would still not expect Yujiro Takahashi to be able to last against Goto for a while, and he did.
Yeah, good point.
And he even hit. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, his finishing move is the Fisherman's Buster, and he hit it from the top rope on Goto and still couldn't pin him. It's just like, okay, so now what? I mean, obviously, the finish is now obvious, right?
Yeah,
So,
and that was one of those two where they kind of lost me when or I'm sorry, when Sho kicked out of those two finishers by Shingo. The Made in Japan and the Pumping Bomber.
yeah,
When he kicked out of both of those, I was like, okay, well, Sho's going to win this. Especially considering they were back-to-back moves.
right. Yeah. So I don't know. So I mean, that's where we're at so far. The second night of round two isn't until
Tonight,
tonight. Tonight technically, yeah. And then I won't see it for a couple of days because I won't watch it without the English commentary.
yeah,
So
and that's I've been noticing that too. But it sounds like they're at least opening up to the fans, and I don't know. I mean, maybe it's me, but I disagree with this. They're opening up to 25% capacity,
hmm
and I, WWE is pushing for it. New Japan is talking about by Dominion they should have 25% capacity, which is 3 to 4 thousand people in that stadium. With a global pandemic going on, and let's face it, it's not over. We started relaxing on the stay-at-home orders, and yeah, I know it's people want to get back to their normal lives, and restaurants need to be open, small businesses and everything, but ultimately. people go back to work and start opening up bars and things like that, and all of a sudden now um, 14, 15 days later, the COVID cases almost triple.
Hmm.
So maybe it's a little too soon to be opening up like that.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I would say that it's different doing it in Japan than it would be here in the United States. Here in the United States, they tried to open up beaches, and they said, just you should just be biking on the beach and going for a walk. You shouldn't be swimming or suntanning,
And then
and people were
4,000 people show up and go
where those
swimming.
people show up and go swimming and bring a cooler and beers and but in Japan, I really think that they will adhere to the social distancing. They will all wear masks. They're not going to crowd each other because they're just too respectful of a country.
Well,
So
I
so
think I
so I
said
so
to
I
you,
do so I do really think that while I do agree that it's probably too early, I would say that if they're going to do it anywhere, Japan is probably the place to do it.
well, and it's like I said to you earlier, is that Japan has, as long as I have known Japan, they've had masks on.
Right.
So, they take safety with the public a lot more serious than anybody else ever has. And when
Hmm.
I'm talking about, I've been watching on and off Japanese wrestling since the mid 90s. And even back then, you'd see people in the crowds with masks on.
Right.
You don't see that in America. And I think that might be, you might be right there. That might be one of those things where they might be the best people to try it.
Yeah. I think they are, and I mean I don't know. I guess it's ultimately up to the fans if they want to do that, and they're working closely with the government. So whether if the government's going to allow it, I guess it's New Japan's going to trust what the government is telling them too. You know. So, but I guess we'll see how it goes.
Well, this is weird. It's saying this video is private.
Oh, did you set
So,
it? Did you set it up to be private?
no,
Because you can choose this public. You can choose public or private when you're setting it up.
I didn't want it to be private.
Oh come on, big boy. You know you did.
I did not. For some reason, it was, I don't know what's happening here.
Go check on my other dog here. Hang on a sec. Um. So do we want to talk about Dynamite at all?
Uh, I did want to talk a little bit about AEW, not necessarily Dynamite. Um, my issues with AEW recently has been the fact that they're really, really into stop and start booking,
Mm-hmm.
like badly into stop and start booking. It's how many people over the last 8 months have we seen get this humongous push and then all of a sudden just disappear? I mean, Darby Allin, I think, is hurt right now, but he's really kind of gone on the back burner since his last big time loss. It started with Scorpio Sky where he was pushed to the moon, then all of a sudden just nothing. Lance Archer got that treatment. Um, it just seems to be happening time and time again. I don't like the fact that they're really not pushing towards any long-term stories outside of possibly um, Orange Cassidy and Jericho. Other than that, there's really not any long-term stories that are going on. And then, you look at the fact that everything focuses around Cody and Jericho, not even their world champion. It seems like they're almost lost with what they're doing.
Yeah, I think the last time that they had any kind of a main event or closing segment that did not feature Jericho or Cody was that terrible NT Arena match between Mox and Swagger, or I'm sorry, Jake Hager. And and honestly, I am. Is
You just on mute. I think your dog hit your.
that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Um, I am just so down on AEW right now, and a lot of it is just because I hate that TNT Championship. I hate that it exists. I hate that Cody won it. I hate they're pushing it so goddamn hard. 2 weeks ago, they said that it was a an open challenge, and that Cody had picked the guy coming in, but then they said it was an open challenge, and he signed it signed it himself. And then they said that Arn found him, and it was Ricky Starks. So I mean, it wasn't, not that it was a bad choice. It's just that, be consistent with it. If it's an open challenge, then you shouldn't be recruiting the person to have that challenge for you. It's an open challenge where anybody can go out there and challenge you.
Well, I mean, the
You know
first
it.
couple of weeks they had the open challenge. It was announced the week before, and then and you just still got unplugged again. Then they went with announcing Jake Hager for Fighter Fest, which pretty much just kind of blew the open challenge out of the water for the next couple of weeks.
Hmm.
It's inconsistent. It seems like they are spending too much time. And I don't want to say too much time on Cody because there's a lot. Cody has a lot of fans. Um, he's getting the love. And I will say AEW does put on good wrestling matches. Their women's division is becoming a strength. Their tag team division is a strength. They have a lot of talent. They tend to put a lot of emphasis on wrestling, but ultimately I don't see their storyline development any better than what is happening in WWE. Maybe a few better promos. But as far as storyline develop, the shotgun booking, the fact that there's no real long-term storylines, the stop and start booking, the fact that every month we have to have a new challenger for, each one of the titles, it's getting to be repetitious and honestly no better than what we've been seeing in WWE.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the match quality is better, but not the story. I mean, and how badly have they dropped the ball on who was the hottest guy in the promotion now? I mean, now he's basically has no time. He comes out there, and he still has great matches because he's great.
Right.
But I mean, where is the storyline with Hangman Page now? You
Yeah,
know,
it just dropped. They just dropped it.
they decided, oh yeah, they're getting he's getting along with everybody now. And now I guess and now they're saying what we were saying, that Cody's the odd man out of the elite. But where was the transition between those two? There wasn't one.
Yeah, it was just a drop storyline. And I mean, they did their best to keep it going after everybody came back. At Double or Nothing with just the week leading up to it during the match, they kind of made it look like Paige was separate. And then all of a sudden they won that match and everybody's all great. They're
Yep.
all friends. They're all friends again. It just it's just one of those things that's really kind of gotten to me over the last, I'd say, maybe month and a half. Well, I guess I can't say. Yeah, yeah, I guess about a month and a half is when they came back to having a full roster or a semi-full roster again.
Yeah, something like that.
But
And
it's just ever since they've come back, I gave them, we saw seeds of this happening while they had a limited roster and nobody was there and they were doing tape shows. But we gave them the benefit of the doubt because, well, it's AEW. They did so good before. But it's like, it's just right now I'm having a very, very hard time distinguishing AEW from NXT.
hmm
And I'm going to say NXT because I think they are better than WWE proper as far as storytelling and match quality goes, but we get similar type of matches on NXT. We get similar stories on NXT. I'm not seeing much of a difference between them anymore. And 4 or 5 months ago, there was a huge difference because NXT started taking the WWE route.
yeah, and the thing is that they can make time for. It's like they just they get new talent signed in, and then they just scrap the storylines they had going. Like now that the Bucks are now that the
FTR is in, yeah.
FTR is there, now the Bucks can focus on them instead of on the tag titles of Page and Omega.
And then
Uh,
all of a sudden, what
and,
was the best long-term storyline they had going was just scrapped, just dropped.
yep, yep.
No
And
questions
then
asked, just dropped.
Brian Cage comes in, and all of a sudden he's the world. He's the top challenger for the world title.
And a great
Um,
storyline that they could have had going for another couple months with Brody Lee is dead and gone.
and then they bring in, like you mentioned, um, uh, they bring in Lance Archer, and he's got this great undefeated streak going until he runs into Cody, and now we've barely seen him on television since then.
Hmm.
It's I really hope that they're telling a long-term story with Colt Cabana right now, because if not, we're gonna have the payoff in tomorrow night, and then we're gonna be back to 1 month stories, which is what I hate. I really hate like 1 month long stories. I think they need to go a lot longer than that.
Well, it's, it's shotgun booking is
Uh huh.
what it is. They're not booking for all in. They're booking for next week's show. And that's one thing that WWE has been criticized about over the last couple of years. Granted, there was a time and a lot of people, and Eric Bischoff, I heard it on 83 Weeks. He said that was one of the things that people that came over from WWE, and one thing he learned about WWE, and he even said he goes he doesn't know when it stopped. But one thing WWE always did was they focused on this is where we want to be at WrestleMania next year. Now, how do we get there?
Yeah.
And that's
But
I
that also meant that they're not willing to change their minds either for the most part.
well, yeah, and the only time they ever did is injuries and things like that. But it's not a bad idea to say, okay, this is where we want to be at all in next year. This is who we have on the roster. This is where we want to be. But then go ahead and something different comes along, eat it up. Like the whole Daniel Bryan thing from WrestleMania 30, the Kofi Kingston thing from 2 years ago.
Hmm.
You know, jump on that when it starts to happen, when it becomes organic. But it's not a bad idea to have some vision and a goal of where you want to be a year from now and kind of work towards that.
No, it's not a bad thing at all. I'm just saying that you have to be, that have
You
that
have to be
as the general
flexible,
outline, but be flexible if something else changes.
right? Yeah, and I
Um,
agree with that.
um, and the other thing is that and this isn't necessarily the promotion's fault, but it doesn't help anything. But my interest level being reduced due to the fact that three of my favorite people on that roster are now suffering injuries. You know, Ray Phoenix, Chris Statlander, and well, Britt Baker obviously, but she's there every week anyway. But then
It's funny
also
how much
Darby Allin.
it's funny how much we hated Britt Baker a year ago, and now she's one of the best parts of the women's division, and we're sad that she's injured.
I never actually hated her. I just thought she was over pushed and overrated. And but now she's had a chance to show her personality. She's developing as a heel. I just thought she was a terrible. I thought she was terrible as a babyface, and I thought she was really green in the ring.
Yeah, and she was terrible as a babyface. I'm not gonna disagree with that. There's certain people that are just natural heels, and I think she's one of them.
Yeah, and so was her boyfriend.
Exactly. I can't see Adam Cole as a face, ever.
No, he's done it for brief stints where he was setting him up being a heel, a bigger heel.
Right,
That's
exactly.
and that's what the best heels do.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, kind of like a Ted DiBiase. He's just always going to be a heel to me. If he's a face, I'll still boo him like a heel, just because that's what he is. That's where he excels. Ric Flair is another one who is so much better as a heel. He was a natural heel. He was never really good as a babyface.
No, he never. Well, he was not good as a heel either, but we'll leave that aside.
Right. We're not going to get into that discussion again. I'm a little disappointed about this video being private. I wonder what I did wrong.
I have no idea,
Makes me
but
sad.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like we missed doing Dynamite Direct the last couple of weeks, but in watching it, I probably would have felt, I probably would have been hyped up like for the show and doing the show afterwards, but um, I just kind of like, I sit and I think and I'm like, why am I not as interested in this show as I used to be? And I think a lot of it really is that I just feel like the focus is completely off where it should be. You know?
No, it's set up as public. I don't understand why it's private.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, I'm a little disappointed.
Teapot?
It doesn't make sense to me. Now I'm a little bit irritated because why is this being private? I wonder if it's because I'd messed with the audio. I wouldn't think so, would you?
I would not think so. No, that should not the one should not affect the other.
You wouldn't think so. But it's maddening because it's literally it's set up for public, yet it's It's saying this video is private.
Yeah, that's very odd.
So I'm confused. Is it at least rolling on Lords of Pain?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it
good.
is.
So at least we'll get some listeners.
Um,
And it will be on Patreon here soon too. One thing, a programming note that I want to get out there is that Patreon, we're going to have a busy week next week. We've got at least 3, 4 shows depending on AEW, and if we're going to continue doing that. Okay, you're going to have to wait until Daddy's done, okay?
well, we got Fighter Fest next week and this week, so I think we kind of have to do it
Oh yeah,
at
yeah,
least through
yeah,
there.
yeah,
So
yeah. So I mean, we got Kingdom of Honor next Tuesday. We've got AEW and Night One of Fighter Fest on Wednesday. Um, and hopefully it changes. I mean, Ring of Honor, remember we had to take a few month break from that, and because their booking was terrible, and then it got better. Um, maybe that's what we need to do with AEW. I guess I don't know. It's just I'm just not enjoying it like I used to. That's the problem.
no, I see. The thing is that I think they are doing things that are going to keep me interested in watching because I really want to see the Bucks versus FTR.
But it's not going to be a weekday show. It's going to be a pay-per-view. They're building for it at Double or Nothing.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's not something that they're going to throw on free TV. They know the money's there.
Have they even made an announcement about John Moxley yet? Do we know if he's going to be able to
Nope,
wrestle?
they haven't said anything. And he was night 2 of it, wasn't he? He was the second week, or is he the
I bel
first?
no, I believe he's the second week.
I mean, Renee has been tweeting on, been all over Twitter, talking about this and that. So I don't know how sick she is, or if she just tested positive, or what. Because I know, in our hometown here, there's people that are testing positive that haven't been sick, but they had that ridiculous flu back in January, and now they're going in and being tested for their work or whatever, and it's coming back as having a positive test result. They said that because of the way they test for it, it can pick up a positive result anytime within the last 6 months.
Yeah, well, my wife's pretty sure she had it.
Yeah,
You know.
and there's a lot of people that I know that feel the same way. Um, so I don't know. I mean, is the Renee Young thing, is that going to be? I mean, if I was, what is beeping in my house? Arlo, what did you do? Something is beeping. What's beeping? Oh, well, we're gonna figure it out because it's driving me nuts. Anyway,
All right, so let's take a look at the card for tomorrow night and see how we feel about the card for tomorrow night. So one thing I'm excited about for sure are the two tag team matches. We've got Best Friends challenging Omega and Page, which I think is going to be an absolutely outstanding tag team title match.
yeah, I definitely need to watch that.
You got Santana and Ortiz taking on Private Party, which is going to be again an absolutely outstanding tag team match. Something's beeping in your house, by the way.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's driving me nuts.
I'm not so sure how I feel about NJF and Wardlow versus Jurassic Express. How do you feel about that match happening?
I don't care.
Yeah, me neither.
I think it's the PlayStation.
It sounds like the PlayStation.
It sounds like the eject button must be going because the PlayStation is turned off. So,
Yeah, but that does remind me of the PlayStation sound from when you're trying to turn it on or eject something. Um,
wonderful.
but yeah, I mean, to me, it's just gonna be another example of Luchasaurus losing yet again when he should be one of the guys being pushed to the top.
Right.
Um, and we heard how over he was the first few months of the promotion, and then he got injured, and then he came back, but they have barely used him. It's just been
Well, that's part of
ridiculous.
their stop and start booking. I mean, it was Luchasaurus was getting a push, and then Darby Allin was getting a push. Granted, he got injured, but you know, it seems like every couple of months they've got a new guy they're giving a push to. Right now, it's Jungle Boy. And what's going to happen when Jungle Boy's star falls a little bit? Is he just going to go back to the background and be a lower mid card tag team jobber again, like Scorpio Sky ended up being?
Well, honestly, I don't care because if it comes down to the Luchasaurus versus Jungle Boy, I know which guy I want to see pushed,
Oh
and it's
yeah,
not
absolutely.
and it's not Luchas and it's not Jungle Boy.
But I'm just saying that's been their MO since their start is they're stop and start booking with some of these young guys. It's great that they're pushing young guys and that's what we want to see out of them. But the stop and start booking is starting to really kind of bug me a little.
Right.
It's like if you're going to push Lance Archer as this unstoppable beast, they needed to do a better job of telling that story against Cody so that he looked like he was still an unstoppable beast where Cody got, maybe got a lucky pin or something, not a dominant pin like he did. And then they should have had him out there. I mean, they even kind of started to maybe a little bit give us um, some direction with him where he was pissed off that he lost and he was going to take it out on everybody. And that was a 1 week promo, and then we didn't hear anything about it again.
Yeah. It's been it's been terrible. And then Jungle Boy, we have to hear about every week about how his real name is Jack Perry. You know, they don't say like Luchasaurus Frank Smith or whatever the hell his name is.
Right, right.
They don't say Wardlow, you know, Mike Donovan or whatever the fuck. You know
Although
what I
I
mean?
will say that match last week with Wardlow and Luchasaurus was pretty freaking good.
It was.
But
It
then
was
again,
good.
I'm not complaining. I have absolutely no complaints about their match quality. Their match quality is still top notch.
Yeah, it's just that I feel like things that are going places are things that I don't care about, or I think the wrong things going on. You know,
My problem is I don't see any long-term storylines happening, and I don't see any. I see too much stop and start booking.
and I'm sure they're going to book the TNT Championship as the main event for tomorrow night's show, and I
Ugh.
don't care about the championship or either of the challengers right now.
And I
So
still say that if Cody is not, since they're treating this as two separate episodes and not one big event, um, I will not be happy if Cody doesn't have an open challenge on night two, because that's been his thing is he will defend that title on every show. Well, then you better defend it on both halves of Fyter Fest.
yeah, and the truth is that MJF has a great argument against him. It's like how come I'm not getting that title shot when I beat him and I'm undefeated?
Well,
You know.
technically, it's an open challenge. He should be calling for an opponent, and the first person to come out should be doing it. So MJF should be able to take it. But the problem is that's not the way this open challenge is working.
That's what I mean. Is that if you can book Jake Hager 2 weeks out, why aren't you booking
MJF a week
MJF
out
2 weeks
or
out
two
when he
weeks out.
actually has beaten the champion
Right.
and does not have a loss on his resume?
Yeah,
You know.
there's a lot of issues with it that bother me.
And let's see what's the other match on. Oh, and then we have Penelope Ford taking on Hikaru Shida, which of course is going to be outstanding. So
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean that's Penelope Ford has really been on fire lately, and Sheeta is still the best wrestler in the company. So I'm happy about that match.
wait, did you say that the way you meant to say that?
What's that?
Did you say that the way you meant to say that?
That
You
Sheeta's the best wrestler in the company?
yeah. Did you mean to say wrestler? Or did you mean to say women's wrestler?
I meant to say wrestler.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I
She,
just want to make
I,
sure I heard you correctly.
right
So
now, she is the best wrestler on a week in, week out basis.
she absolutely is. I agree.
But then again, we're not seeing a lot of the top-notch people week in, week out. Like Kenny isn't out there every single week. Sheeta is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's at least. I mean, even if you want to take Kenny and Paige into consideration, she's still the best singles performer in the company right now.
I'm gonna go on a limb and just say she's the best overall wrestler in the company right now. Simply because she's the one out there performing every single week. She's every match she is everything she's touched for months has been fire. And that doesn't mean that Kenny is not still a treat to watch and somebody that you need to definitely watch when you get a chance to, but ultimately he's not out there every single week.
No, he's not, and it's also not his. He doesn't have the task that Sheeta has of trying to carry an entire um, division kind of on her shoulders.
Not just carry a division, she needs to make a division. Because up until, with Britt Baker being hurt, up until this run out of Sheeta, the women's division has really been painful to watch just because they haven't gotten their due. And now with Sheeta as champion, they seem to be getting their due. I mean, you're getting the rise out of Penelope Ford, which is long overdue. Uh, Britt Baker is a joy to watch every single week. You've got, uh, oh, I can't think of this Anna Jay, who I'm a little disappointed that she went Dark Order-ish already after only one televised loss, but she was really impressive against Sheeta in that loss.
Yes, she was.
You know, there
And you haven't even mentioned your favorite women's wrestler yet either.
Statlander.
No, Big Swole.
Oh, I hate you. Oh, yeah. So yeah, there's Big Swole too. But yeah, I mean,
Rhaegar, back off.
I'm definitely a fan of their women's division. I'm definitely a fan of Sheeta. I think Sheeta is doing something that nobody else in the company is doing. She's compelling storyline. She's well, and I think that's another thing that works into it too. Is Kenny might be out there with um, putting on amazing performances, but ultimately, what storyline does he have going on? They dropped the Page storyline. He hasn't been in a storyline with Pac for what, 6 months now, or well, about 4 months now. So he really doesn't have anything going on.
Can you filibuster for a minute?
Oh yeah, and I mean that's one thing about Sheeta is Sheeta is maybe because she's the champion, so she gets a little more opportunity. But I honestly I can't say that any wrestler has been a more consistent performer in the company than Sheeta. Sammy has been great, but who knows when he's coming back? You know, you've got Darby who's out injured. Who knows when he's coming back? He was absolutely amazing before his injury. Um, I thought Lance Archer was a compelling character and storyline that he had, but that got dropped after his loss to Cody. It just, as much as I love the wrestlers and love the product, I'm really getting thrown off by the lack of storytelling, the lack of the stop and start booking, the lack of long-term storytelling, the lack of, you know, we talked about this a couple weeks ago about how it seems to be, it might have been last week actually, about how it seems to be the same, you know, half dozen, six, you know, six, seven, eight wrestlers on every single week. Like for me, a perfect example would be you know, break up Lucha Brothers. They're both better as individual wrestlers. They both could do pushes. They both could get a push on their own. We don't need to have a 30-minute epic match to start the show and a 20-minute epic match to end the show. Maybe we could trim, you know, 15 minutes off that and throw another match on there. I don't want to get into a, you know, a 10, 12, 13 episode 2 hour show where everybody's getting 3 or 4 minutes. I think that we could still have great tag team wrestling by having that opening match be 20 minutes long instead of 30 minutes long. And then, you know, maybe we have a squash match and then, but breaking apart Mysterio, or I'm not Mysterio, but Ray Phoenix and I keep wanting to say LA Park, Pentagon would be huge for their singles division and actually give Moxley some new faces to wrestle. And they could do what I thought they should have done all along, and that tag team to tag with Pac in Death Triangle should have been hybrid too. I think that that would have given them some exposure, would have given a couple of guys who really, after their heel turn, kind of fit what Pac's whole thing is. It makes more sense to me. I don't know
Yeah,
if you're
it
back yet
absolutely
or not,
yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, and I don't know. I just the other thing is I wanted to say is we talked about how they don't really have a story for Kenny, um, and I really hope that they're not going to use that as an excuse to hot shot a heel turn tomorrow night by Page. Where Page turns to Omega, they lose the tag titles of best friends, and now you got Omega versus Page battling it out.
if they turn Page heel at this point after showing the Bucks as basically the heels for the last 3, 4 months and dropping the storyline, I'm going to be more pissed off than I have been before, than I was before.
Yeah, what I really want to happen is the Elite to win the match, and then have FTR, because FTR keeps saying tag team, and that kind of thing. And I think FTR facing up against Omega and Page before they get to the Bucks would be great.
Yeah.
And the Bucks could do something. I don't know what the Bucks would do in the meantime. Maybe just heal up. I don't know.
Uh,
But
Make their heel turn and attack best friends or something.
that'd be fine with me too. But
You
I mean,
know,
I think having FTR and FTR and the Bucks is something that people have wanted to see for a long time. That are but not necessarily like the people that are watching the show. Not the
No,
mainstream wrestling fans.
the
And
hardcore
so
wrestling fans that followed being the elite 4 years ago want to see FTR in the Bucks.
right. So I think having some time for this feud to simmer would be great. Rather than rushing into it right away.
You know what I wouldn't mind, and I know I hate false finishes and everything. And next week on our we were talking about a busy week. Another couple things we're doing next week is we've got a YouTube exclusive show where we're doing, and hopefully my video won't be private on Monday, so we can actually broadcast it. But on Monday we're looking at the Netflix series Island, and then on
Yeah, and God damn you for choosing that series.
have you started watching it yet?
I've watched the first 2 episodes and the acting is terrible. But
Is
we'll
it
talk
really?
about that next week.
All right. I haven't started it yet. I'm going to start it on Friday, but um, I've gone through and I'm pretty much locked on my Macho Man, and we're going to do another Deserted Island series with Macho Man, who ultimately, I like to call AJ Styles and Chris Jericho the GOAT, but my all-time favorite wrestler is still Randy Savage. So we're going to do
Yeah,
that next week, and I kind of got off track there, but
no, that's fine. I mean, and it's kind of cool that he's your all-time favorite. And you found new matches to add to the collection this last
oh
week.
my God, and the thing was is I remember a lot of his work in WWF and WCW, and I there were a couple of great matches, but I wanted some matches that really showed what he did as a wrestler. So I started watching some of his Mid-South stuff because I heard he had great matches with Jerry Lawler, and I'm not going to lie, I'm very impressed with what I saw in Mid-South wrestling.
That's pretty cool.
And then I sent you that video. Did you get a chance to watch that of his first ever appearance on Mid South?
I did not watch that.
Oh,
No.
you got to watch that. He comes out, he cuts a promo, he interrupts a match, beats the hell out of everybody, and then cuts a promo again, calling out Jerry Lawler. It was his first night ever in Mid South.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's about 10 minutes long, but it's 10 minutes that's really, really worth it.
Well, maybe I really don't want to watch it on my phone, so maybe I'll look up the link and watch it on my big 120-foot screen. So
You're not going to want to because it's really choppy, bad. It looks like JFK footage as far as the camera goes, to a point where, and another match that I watched was the Loser Leaves Town match between him and Lawler, and the last 2 minutes of it was scrolling film where it was really choppy and staticky, so you might not want to watch it on a big screen. It might annoy you more.
oh, okay, fair
But
enough.
it's I definitely found some gems in that, some stuff that I was really happy I got to see because it kind of showed, the Savage that we got to know, which ironically wasn't very watered down from what he was before. Which a lot of times WWE, because they don't want to offend, and even back then in the 80s with the cartoon era, they'd never, and the rock and roll or the whatever era they were in, they didn't want to offend anybody, so they kind of watered down people. Like Jake Roberts was a watered down version of what he does, what he was in AWA. Hulk Hogan was completely transformed from the great heel that he was into the Hulkster. You had watered down versions of a lot of wrestlers. Jim Duggan's another one, Bushwhackers, but Savage was not watered down. He brought a lot of what he was doing in Mid South to WWF, and I don't want to say necessarily improved it, but he didn't change his character up very much at all,
Oh, interesting.
which
Okay.
was really fun to watch, and it was really fun to watch him against Lawler and against Rock and Roll Express and a couple of the other matches I saw him do.
Yeah. So that's what we're talking about. So we're almost at an hour, but did we want to talk a little bit about Impact?
I, I was thinking about that, and I don't know if Impact. I mean, why don't you set it up before I kind of give my thoughts on it?
Well, Impact recently lost the services or fired or who depending on who you believe and what happened.
No, they
Uh,
fired her.
Tessa
They
Blanchard.
they fired her because she refused to do her job.
Right. And so I looked at that and I kind of like shook my head and I mentioned to Jeff that Impact just can't keep their champions, and they really need to start looking at signing people to long-term contracts, ironclad contracts, or having something else in place so that this doesn't keep happening to them because it's really embarrassing. Out of their last 15 people to hold the championship, two are with the company right now.
And the funny thing is one of those two is their Golden Child franchise, who they could have put the belt on a year ago, and he could have held it for a year, and the fans would have loved it. And that's Eddie Edwards.
Yep.
You know,
And the other one just lost the title to Tessa Blanchard.
right,
So
exactly. And then there's Sammy, and Sammy's another one who should have gotten a long, long run with the belt, not just what, a 2 month run like he had.
yeah, two or three, yeah. Um,
So
and then like looking at the other people in the promotion, Rob Van Dam's held the title, Rhino's held the title, and Ken Shamrock has. So really they've got five people in their promotion that have held the championship, but a lot of them were like years and years and years ago. You
oh, and
know,
now Moose, you can't forget Moose. He's the TNA, or he's a TNA champion right now.
uh,
Or did I miss
the
something?
the self-proclaimed TNA champion.
He's
Yes,
the TNA champion.
yeah, he's the self-proclaimed
Moose.
TNA champion,
Moose.
the
Moose.
legend known as
Moose.
Moose.
And it was funny too because we were talking about that right before he came out and announced himself the TNA champion, is how he never really got a run. He should have, had a run as champion and all that stuff. So it was kind of funny for him to come out the next night with holding the TNA championship belt and declare himself the champion.
Yeah, it really was. But I'm also just kind of like to the point where I'm just so annoyed with the way TNA has handled, or Impact, I'm sorry, has handled this speaking out movement that I really don't even want to watch them
Talk
right
about it
now.
anymore. I,
Well,
I,
I don't want to watch Impact right now. I've been saying how great they are, how great their weekly show has been, but at the same time, I have no faith in their management. I have no, I hate to say that because it's Don Callis doing it, but I mean, look at the decisions he's made over the last few years that have just kind of blown up in his face.
like bringing
And
all the ECW guys in.
and then you're going to push Michael Elgin to the moon. He's about to win your world championship, and you fire him because of something that happened. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, you suspend him because of rumors about what happened years ago with another promotion, and then which by the way, even if the rumors are true, it still happened with another goddamn promotion.
Right.
Um, but then you fire him because you get into a fight with Sammy Callahan. And I said this to Jeff. I said, if pro wrestling didn't exist, you couldn't make this shit up. He got
Well,
into a he got into a backstage actual physical fight with Sammy Callahan about how a match was going to start
and it's
between involving Ken Shamrock. And it's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Well, and the thing is it shouldn't have come as a surprise to them. They should have known that kind of behavior was going to come out, since that's why he got fired from NJPW. That's why I don't remember, but I'd heard that he got into some incidents in Ring of Honor. But that was one of the main reasons he got let go from New Japan, was because he just could not get along with the people in the back.
Jeff, you used to report to me at work,
Right.
and can you imagine if I was running a team meeting and you had said to me, no, I think you should start with this topic, and I'm like, no, we'll talk about it. We're going to start with what I'm talking about, and you like decided just to hit me for that. Can you
Right,
imagine?
exactly.
That's what we're talking about here.
Well, exactly. And the funny thing is, was Elgin even involved in that match? Wasn't it a match between Callahan and Shamrock?
It was supposed to be a triple threat between the three of them.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, but still,
But I mean, this whole speaking out movement, and okay, I'm gonna say it, applause to everybody who's coming out and airing their mental health issues and the things that put them in those spots. I applaud it. The thing that I don't applaud is that companies are judging people's character off of something they did 4, 5, 6 years ago with other promotions. Stuff that's coming out like the incident with Sammy Guevara was a throwaway comment a child made on a podcast in 2016, and he came out and admitted he was a child around that time, and in 2016 being a shock jock was, I mean, Howard Stern, people, were still really into Howard Stern, especially that age bracket. So he was trying to be shocking and funny and said something stupid, but the person it was directed to wasn't offended by it. He
Right.
apologized for it. He admitted it was a childhood mistake, and it happened 4 years ago. He's not done anything except be ridiculously respectful, one of the most humble people I've ever seen on his podcast, and do everything he can for the business since then. And they suspended him for sensitivity training. And it's like, what? Wait, what? And then you look at a guy like Dave Christ, who what Dave did was probably wrong. I'm not going to say it wasn't, but the allegations coming out about him sound more like a jealous girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, than or an ex-girlfriend who maybe took something the wrong way and decided to speak out about it. It didn't sound like something that he needed to be fired over.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this, I feel like is just PR bullshit. Like, we don't want this person wrestling for our company right now because, um, because it's going to cast a bad look at the public, and I'm sure a lot of those guys are going to be rehired somewhere else or rehired, 6 months down the line. But I mean, it's just a terrible time for it to be happening too because there's so few promotions that are actually running events right now.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, but Impact actually came out and said they didn't actually announce that they fired Michael Elgin. They said Michael Elgin will no longer be will not appear on any further Impact Wrestling programming, meaning that they're not even willing to give him a second chance. It sounds like
Right.
when you say he will never appear on our programming again. I mean, what the hell?
Well, I think a lot of that's because he got into a physical altercation over something stupid with their top star. Yeah,
That's
it kind
true.
it kind of it kind of
However,
rings a
but
Randy Orton Ken Kennedy thing to me a little bit. Ken Kennedy was blackballed from the WWF, and Vince doesn't do that to many people after he got into a fight with the hottest guy on the programming at that time.
no, I agree. I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, I mean, we're a country that rewards second chances,
Right,
and it's
exactly.
like you're not even going to give this guy a chance to have a second chance, not even on a probationary basis. You're just going to say he's never going to appear for your promotion again. I mean,
Especially when he's been one of the better parts of the program over the last year.
right? I mean, it's not like he threw like Callis in the back and butt fucked him. It's
It's
just
an image I didn't
ridiculous.
need. Um,
And the other thing is that the other thing is when somebody tells you who they are, you gotta believe them.
right,
Callis was there. He knew what Elgin was doing over there. He
right,
knew who Elgin was when he hired him.
right.
So I mean, I guess it's possible that he was like, this is going to be this is zero tolerance for you. If anything happens here that happened over there, you're done. No questions asked. So I mean, if that's the case, I totally understand it. If not, then it really looks foolish that he would do the same thing that he did in New Japan, and Callis would be kind of, you know, quote unquote surprised by it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is if there was that, deal, then at this they should have come out and said it. Not saying that they have to disclose whatever their laws and contracts are and things like that, but once he got fired, for Callis should have came out and said, look, this is a history of this kind of behavior. We had talked to him about how it wasn't going to be accepted here. It happened, so we let him go.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and if they had said something like that, I would totally understand it. But it's so weird that, to me, it just like it goes against it goes against the American way about saying like you're never going to wrestle here again, you
Right,
know.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit
But of
sketchy.
but of
But
course we also seen plenty of times where people have said never in wrestling and it's come back and happened.
like every time they suspend Hulk Hogan,
Yes,
um,
or like Bret
and
Hart or like Bret Hart returned to the WWE.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, the one thing that I will give, and I've been down on WWE for a while, especially Vince and WWE proper, but that's more of their product, not their business model. The one thing I'm going to give them credit for, they didn't bat an eye with Matt Riddle. There were the allegations that were made. They said, yeah, we know about these allegations. They came up a couple years ago when we first hired him. We are investigating and we're going to let him continue while we investigate.
He's clearly guilty.
What's that?
He's clearly guilty.
Well, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter.
No, we covered this on last week's show. He beat AJ Styles in his very first WWE match. He's clearly guilty.
Oh, yeah. Keep in mind, I don't necessarily remember all of last week's show. But the yeah, I mean I'll give them credit as they didn't buckle. They didn't say, "Oh, you're fired," like everyone else seems to be doing.
Yeah, yeah. What have I haven't been following what WWE has been doing with their guys. So have there been a similar stance on Jordan Devlin and Travis Banks, or
I haven't seen.
Because Devlin is, as far as I know, is their current cruiserweight champion.
Well, Travis Banks wasn't working with them anymore, was he?
I thought he was still with the UK brand, but I could be wrong.
From what I understood, is he was doing some kind of independent thing, or maybe
Well,
it was an
he was
independent.
a Progress Tag Team champion, but he was
It
still.
it was Progress that kind of dumped him. I don't know if NXT did.
That's what
Same.
I was asking. That's what I was asking if you
Yeah,
knew.
and I guess I haven't heard anything. You'd think if WWE were going to can somebody for that, but Travis Banks, that's another one. Some of the things he did is, yeah, it's not acceptable. It's not, he shouldn't have done it. Hindsight 2020, he probably regrets every second of it. But ultimately, it came across more as a um, bad breakup.
Right.
They had a year-long relationship. If he was really that abusive, don't you think things would have came up about it during the relationship?
Yeah, it wasn't
Not,
his like wasn't his a lot of it was, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't something about him was that he was it was a student that was training he was
yeah,
training.
it was a student that he was training. She was a 17-year-old girl. He was at that time, I think, what, 28, so it was a couple years ago. But she was a 17-year-old girl, and yeah, that's wrong. Um, especially I don't know. I guess I don't know England, but in the U.S. it's definitely wrong. And they dated for a year, and now 3 years later, she's coming out talking about how after they broke up, he tried to get her back through drunken texts. And, he didn't handle it correctly. He didn't handle it properly. He didn't handle it like a real man should. But, we all make mistakes. Now, some of the things that she said, I can't confirm or deny about the way he treated her while in the relationship. But I just, I guess maybe it's me, but I don't understand how she could have went along with it for a year if she wasn't enjoying at least some of it. And I'm not, I guess I shouldn't have said that. I retract that because I'm not trying to downplay the victim. It just, from the information I have seen, it seems more like a bad breakup. And maybe she was miserable. I've been in miserable year-long relationships myself, and didn't want to get out of them, but I took responsibility for my staying in them after the fact.
Yeah, I mean I think a lot, but you got to also think about the fact that if he was her trainer, he had a position of authority over her,
Right, and that's
position of
and
power
that
over her, and he could have refused to train her, complete the training. He could have refused to get her bookings, anything like that. If she was trying to get out of a relationship, even if it was abusive.
And if that's the case, she needs to come out and say that because I haven't seen that. What I've seen, the text messages she shared, the stuff like that she shared that I actually saw did not say anything like that. The one thing that she did say that happened during the relationship is that he would deny or he wouldn't admit in public that they were together, and that he cheated on her multiple times. But she never said anything about him holding his position above her.
Okay.
Not that I saw it. Now I'm
Dude,
gonna fully.
as a 28-year-old guy, if I was getting a 17-year-old tail, I don't think I'd be cheating on him.
Well, yeah, me too. But um, it just and whether he was or he wasn't, I got accused of cheating in one of my last relationships, and it was the farthest thing from the truth. It's their own
No, I'm
perspective.
yeah, I'm well aware of that. Yeah.
But
So
the fact that yeah, and whether if that happened, man, if she wants to come out and say that, I'll take her side. I will be all in on that. But I haven't heard that. That's nothing that I heard. I heard some other things, and then the text messages I read seemed more like a guy who was not willing to let a relationship go. Um, and I think I said this to you. I don't think I said it on air last week, but I said it to you. In our day and age, we're taught to fight for what we believe in. But then when these guys are
hmm
fighting for what they believe in, they're being called a predator. if he believed in the relationship and wanted to make it work, isn't that what we tell people to do, is to prove your love and fight for your love?
Yeah. I guess I guess it would just be like to what extent he did that, and whether he was able to let it go.
Yeah, and that's true. I
Savannah,
mean,
enough.
if it was something that was still going on 6 months later and she was being stalked, then I get it. So I don't know. I mean, I didn't want to open that can of worms again. I certainly don't want to belittle any of these people or
No, I
you
wasn't. I
know,
wasn't. I wasn't do that either. I was more talking about how bad I was with Impact about the way they handled it.
yeah, I mean, I applaud them for
Um,
coming out and talking about things that really bothered them and things that hurt them. I applaud them for that because believe me, in my personal life, I have problems doing it. But at the same time, I think people need to not be so quick to judge.
and the other thing I'm looking at here is, just to bring it back to actual wrestling talk, is next week's second night of the Fighter Fest is Nyla Rose versus a mystery opponent. I really, really hope the mystery opponent is not goddamn Tessa Blanchard, because she does not deserve to be rewarded for what she did.
Yeah, I agree. I think we talked about how she got the fame a little too quick. And if the reports are true, I'm gonna agree with that she got it a little too quick because for her to be the Impact champion and have them request her to cut a promo and for her to flat out refuse to cut the promo, you know, that's not her holding her position and she can't be there. She's still grounded in Mexico. So if they want her to cut a promo, she should be cutting a promo.
Well, her dad and her stepdad both should have grounded her for who she married. So
That's a good point. I guess that came as a shock to me too about Daga, you know,
yeah, me too.
her marrying Daga. I was like, that was the most surprising thing about it. Everything else was like, yeah, okay, I see it. But Daga, really?
Yeah, that's kind of amazing. You were in love with her a year ago, and now you're kind of like, bleh.
Well, it's Daga. I mean, come on.
That's the other. But that kind of explains why they were so high on Dogga too. Is like, let's gotta keep Tessa happy.
Well, I mean, Daga was a superstar in Mexico, and but he was never really that. There was nothing really. To me, he was kind of like your Sean Spears.
Hmm.
There was nothing that really stood out as impressive with him.
No, nothing at all. Yeah, I mean he has your basic luchador moveset as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah,
and
and
no person and hardly any personality.
and
So
a less than luchador personality is what I was gonna say. But
yeah,
all right,
he
guys.
he,
So,
he, he could use a mask.
or at least the Rick Steiner helmet that he used to wear, the ear guards.
Or to bring it back to the beginning of the show, the Takahashi helmet.
Yes, the Takahashi helmet. No, that was construction helmet. That wouldn't have covered the ears. Um, sorry, Daga. I'm sure you're a wonderful guy. Um, the
Dogga and Dogface, you belong together.
right, God. So, guys, quick rundown of what's going on this week with us. Tomorrow night, AEW First Night of Fighter Fest will be live immediately following it to break it down. And then next Monday, we are looking at a twofer, one a YouTube exclusive, one um, well, as long as it doesn't say my videos are private by then anyway, one a YouTube exclusive, one a Patreon exclusive, which we haven't done in a while. The YouTube exclusive is going to be breaking down the Netflix series The Island. And then the Patreon is going to be a return to one of our favorite styles of program. One thing that we really got into and kind of went sideways on because we started reviewing pay-per-views. But we're going to break down the career of Macho Man Randy Savage and pick four matches each that if we were stranded on a desert island, we would want with us. And I think you might be surprised about a couple of the matches that I picked because I dug deep with the matches I got. And then, of course, next Tuesday, return to Kingdom of Honor with not only the second night of what are we? It's the second night of the second round, but probably third and fourth night as well. And then whatever else is going on in the wrestling world at that time. So I did mention our Patreon, YouTube, if you're listening to it. well, you're not because for some reason it's private. But if you're listening to it on Lords of Pain, we appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and hit drop a like on this, and then head over to the youtube.com/Kingdom of Honor stream and do the same. While I figure out how to unprivate this video. And also head over to our Patreon. It's where we do exclusive shows on there. All of the shows that we've done, YouTube, Blog Talk, whatever platform we've been on, they're on there. Small donation to help us out, and it gives you guys hours and hours and hours of content. Also, you can look at me on Twitter. I'm at Regi Co-op. He is at ZanmanLOP. Use the hashtag DAD and the hashtag KOH for everything.
And we'll be back with you tomorrow night talking about Dynamite on Dynamite After Dark, right after Fyter Fest Night 1 goes off the air on tomorrow night on TNT. On Thursday is MLP Radio Adventure. Sometime over the weekend, we'll drop the next episode of WWF The Legacy Series. Make sure you guys are safe out there on the 4th of July weekend. I don't know if things are going on around you guys. We don't have much going on around here at all. A lot of the activities that we normally would do have been canceled. But I hope you guys, enjoy yourselves on the 4th. What are we covering next? What are we covering next week, Jeff? Are we gonna have more English NJPW to actually watch by then?
I would think so.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
probably more New Japan Cup then.
we should have, pretty much all the second round done by then. I mean, I guess I don't know how much he's going to be able to get done, or Kevin Kelly's going to be able to produce, but we should be able to have some, I would assume.
Yeah, well, I know that so probably in a couple of days. Yeah, so probably we'll have some to watch. If not, we'll figure something else out. So,
Right, exactly.
that's all we've got. We'll try to do better next time. This is
Shane unplugged. And so Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying goodbye. Shane, are you still
goodbye.
there? Are you there? Did
I
you
I
come
am still,
back?
guys. We do Shane Unplugged on this show now, right? So
Uh,
it's like the old MTV Unplugged, except for it's the KOH Unplugged. So
we should start a pool and see, get everyone involved. We'll place bets on how many times you're going to get unplugged and when.
part of the problem is like last week on the reason it happened so many times tonight is last week my puppy like bent the prong that goes into the computer. So I probably should get a new headset one of these days.
That might not be a bad idea. All right, so yeah, the whole long days, pleasant night thing.
Yeah, long days, pleasant nights.
Goodbye.